My name is Mary Elizabeth Hunt, and I'm the co-founder and co-director of WATER, the Women's Alliance for Theology, Ethics, and Ritual.
I'm Diane New, the co-founder and co-director of WATER, the Women's Alliance for Theology, Ethics, and Ritual.
The fundamental trajectory of WATER has been for bringing together the resources of feminist work and religion with the commitments and the resources to do social change. So it has never been simply a think tank where we brought people together to imagine what might be, but it's always been very practical, helping people with tools and resources for doing the kind of social change work, whether it's around reproductive health, whether it's around gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer issues, whether it's ecological things. It's been a very pragmatic approach both to scholarship and to spirituality. And that is, I think, a distinguishing feature of WATER.
We can't only talk about what needs to be done, we have to do it. I think our faith, our feminist faith, calls us to put into action what we really believe.
35 years later, we're looking back on what we never could have imagined in our wildest dreams. A going concern, an interesting, small, but I think mighty nonprofit, and hopefully a lot of people whose lives have been affected by the work that we do. I couldn't ask for more.
In the 70s, when I was in theology school, 1977 to 80, I really thought I would be one of the first Catholic women ordained in this country, if not the world, because the Episcopal women were first ordained in 1974, and we Catholic women thought that we were like the next wave of ordination coming in. Now, that didn't happen. However, in the 70s, women began to realize that we needed our own places where we could focus on the work that needed to be done and not just come on board on male agendas around theology, ethics, and ritual.
It became very important to me to do something that wasn't just teaching in a small college or working in a university doing something I really didn't want to do, but in fact creating the kinds of spaces that Mary Daly had said, the great philosopher and theologian Mary Daly had said we needed, which were what she called new space and new time, where we could live out some of the ideas that we were talking about in feminist work and religion.
We gathered 13 women together and said and these were women cross religious denominations, cross theology, ethics, ritual, and we asked the question, what do you think? What is the need? What can we do? And we thought at that time that the center would focus on theology. And after one of our gatherings, one of the women said, well, what about the soul? What about the spirit? What about focusing on ritual? And Mary went away and she thought, what about water? I think it was just kind of natural that putting theology, spirituality, and justice together was the heart of what WATER needs to do.
I think it's fair to say last year when we were together, we were in a kind of collective shock and horror at what had passed in our country right before our eyes. The triumph of a president and subsequently an administration that has moved far faster and far more destructively than we could have imagined. So we come together again this afternoon to think together about resistance, resilience, and creativity in light of this and many other difficulties in our world.
The combination of justice work and theological analysis has been a foundational part of WATER. When I wrote my doctoral dissertation in 1980, it was called Feminist Liberation Theology, the Development of Method in Construction. And what I looked at was, on the one hand, feminist theology in the U.S. up until 1980, and then liberation theology in Latin America in the same period. And I saw certain similarities and certain differences, but mostly I saw a way to weave them together. And in weaving them together, I saw that the resources of feminist understandings of history, of sociology, of psychology, of the arts, literature, combined with feminist analysis of theology, fit very well into the kind of analysis we needed to do to make social change, which was the whole point of liberation theology. So when we started Water, that was really the foundational intellectual insight to bring feminist liberation theological methodology to actual fruition in the world.
Welcome to the first teleconference of the 2017-18 water season. It's always a special occasion here. Like all of our efforts here at Water, our purpose is not simply theoretical. Rather, and particularly since the election of last November, we are focused on changing the cultural and intellectual assumptions that ground discrimination, exclusion, and destruction. We've had some of the very best and brightest people in the field who are deeply committed, as we are, to social change. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Mary Hunt at the Water Office. I want to welcome you to our teleconference with Kelly Brown Douglas. We are absolutely thrilled to have Sister Teresa Kane with us today.
Hi, Mary Hunt. This is Katie Cannon.
Let me then introduce Elizabeth Schussler Fiorenza,
The Reverend Dr. Emily M. Towns.
Carol Adams, our speaker, my friends Judith Klaskow and Carol Christ,
Claude Pouillan, who's a longtime friend and colleague of Water. There's almost nothing that I can say about Rosemary Redford Ruther that hasn't been said before.
Oh, healing river, send down your waters, send down your waters upon the land. Oh, healing river, send down your waters and wash the blood off of the sand.
I think I was born with a spirituality gene that has informed my social justice commitment throughout my life. I always say that ritual has to meet the needs of the people. So what are those needs, and how have those needs changed?
Welcome. This is Diane New, and I'm in the Water Office, and I am so delighted we are gathering tonight. Don't we all need it? Healing after the election, whatever that means for us. It's hard to know what to say tonight. I suppose the most important thing is that we are together.
Blessed are your hands when they support the many efforts of justice. You are the salt.
Give
of the
thanks to divine wisdom.
earth. Begin to center yourself.
Give thanks to the seasons.
Imagine that
for
you
this
are
time.
hand in hand with dear friends. Spirit of life. Surround. Notice the beauty. Remember those whose hands have brought about what change. Will I do to bring about healing and peace?
Well, the work of water has certainly changed over 35 years. The major thing that I would say is that what started off as two Catholic women all dressed up with no place to go has become a worldwide alliance of people from a variety of different faith traditions, gender identities, sexual orientations, but really people from all over the world who, whether through our Feminist Liberation Theologians program or as interns or as visiting scholars, have found a place at water.
To date, water has had, I think we're close to 85 now interns in our short 35-year history. That's amazing to me.
I often say that the product of water is our interns, in the sense that many of them have gone on to great careers, both in the field and in other areas of important work in the world. So what they do is really what we do. We become, they don't simply become an extension of us, we become an extension of them. And I think that's really part of the idea here, is that we keep fresh and learning, and heavens, I have often said we'd be scratching in the sand with a stick if it weren't for our interns who know all about social media and computers and the kinds of things that are important now for getting our message across. So I'm deeply grateful to them and deeply admiring of them.
I'm so thrilled that the women who have come through water are now 11 in all different places. Everything they touch, every place they work, every community they're a part of has a little ripple, if you will, and maybe a big splash. That's far beyond the gift that I could have ever imagined. And let's not even talk about the thousands that are connected with us internationally as well. That is water's gift to the world, and I'm thrilled.
Carol Cinto.
Carol Cinto was a beloved colleague who found herself in a church community, Presbyterian background, married to a Catholic. She couldn't find a home in the church, and she knew the power of a spiritual yearning. She had a very wise Presbyterian pastor who directed her to water. She walked through the water door and just found a home here that made sense to her, to her husband, and to her 4 daughters.
I must say I miss Carol. I sometimes come in and think I'm almost expecting her.
Happy birthday, dear Joe. Happy birthday to you.
Carol's husband, Joe, continues her legacy here by joining us once a week, sometimes more, to do the work that needs to be done around here.
There really are 2 aspects to Joe. One is he can do anything and everything. He can balance the American Express bill, he can fix a lock, he can stuff envelopes, he can cut papers, he can fix the shredder, he can do anything of that sort. But also Joe has an eagle eye for editing like Carol. He's a very gentle and wonderful colleague, and mostly he's a role model, especially for young women, to see what a man who's a feminist looks like, a man who's had 4 daughters, who had a strong feminist wife, and who is himself a strong feminist, a believer in equality for everyone on everything.
There is an intergenerational quality about all that we do, and I know that that's a value to us here at Water, and I invite everyone listening to this to figure out how in your life you honor the generations, because we have them all within us and around us.
when I look at the larger struggle, I have to say, and I look around me and I think, golly, look at the resources we have, the books, the technology, the people. We are enormously privileged here at Water, phenomenally privileged, I above all, to be able to do this work for the better part of my career.
For 35 years, I have always believed that we have to listen to our passions. We have to listen to what we're called to do.
I think that the people who take this work forward in the next decades will be much more racially mixed, much more mixed in terms of religion, much more mixed in terms even of gender and sexual identity than those of us who started it. And I think that's only a good thing. They may in fact not simply be people from the US, which would even be better. So I sometimes joke, my sister says, well, you know, why do you still call it the Women's Alliance? Isn't that a little narrow? And I've often said to her that we could change it to the World Alliance for Theology, Ethics, and Ritual if that would fit better. And that might in fact be my dream.
My dream for Water is that we will continue to listen to the needs of whatever era we're in. I have every confidence that we will do that because we have done that for 35 years. It's why I'm still here. It's why I have continued to find life here, because there is a spirit that is moving us, that is being called forth within us to create a fire, to create a change, to keep alive the hope and the dream.